The FDA has set a 100 parts per billion limit for arsenic in infant rice cereal. There is no equivalent limit for the rice your whole family eats, despite the fact that 1 in 4 rice samples tested by an independent lab in 2025 exceeded that same benchmark. Here are the 7 brands driving that number. In May 2025, Healthy Baby's Bright Futures published a report testing 145 rice samples from 105 brands purchased across 20 U.S. metropolitan areas. Arsenic was detected in 100% of samples, cadmium in all but 1, and 1 in 4 exceeded the FDA's 100 parts per billion limit established for infant rice cereal. The critical insight is that arsenic contamination in rice is primarily a function of where the rice was grown, not which brand name is on the bag. That geographic reality is why the 7 brands on this list matter, and why the 4 at the end matter even more. Brand 7 to never buy, Goya Enriched Medium Grain Rice. Goya is one of the most recognizable names in the rice aisle and a staple brand across Latin American and Caribbean households. The Goya Enriched Medium Grain Rice has been flagged in multiple independent analyses referencing consumer reports testing data for lead and cadmium concerns alongside arsenic, with combined heavy metal levels placed at approximately 95 to 115 parts per billion. Medium grain rice tends to be sourced from the southern United States, which the HBBF 2025 report identified as the single highest risk growing area for arsenic contamination due to decades of historical arsenic pesticide use on cotton fields across Arkansas, Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, and Missouri. This is not a current farming practice problem. The arsenic from those historical applications is still in the soil decades later, and rice plants absorb it more readily than virtually any other staple crop because the flooded paddy environment releases soil arsenic into the water the plant takes up. Brand 6 to never buy, Carolina brand brown rice. The Carolina brand name is not coincidental. The product is positioned around a regional identity that happens to correspond directly with one of the highest arsenic rice growing areas in the country. HBBF 2025. Report data and multiple analyses drawing on consumer reports testing place Carolina brand brown rice in the 150 to 175 parts per billion range for total heavy metal content, with the majority of that load coming from inorganic arsenic. Brown rice carries higher arsenic than white rice across all growing regions because arsenic concentrates in the bran layer, which is removed during milling to produce white rice. Choosing a southeastern U.S. brown rice stacks the highest arsenic growing region with the highest arsenic rice variety simultaneously. Carolina brand consistently sits at that intersection. Brand 5 to never buy, minute rice and instant rice products, Minute. Rice and similar instant rice products, including parboiled 5-minute and 10-minute varieties, carry a documented risk that goes beyond the standard arsenic contamination found in all rice. The HBBF 2025 report specifically identified pre-cooked and instant rice as a category with additional concerns, noting that the high-heat manufacturing processes used to create instant rice can form an additional toxic compound called dimethyl monothioarsenate, abbreviated as DMMTA, which forms when certain arsenic compounds react with amino acids and B vitamins during high-heat processing steps. This is a contaminant created by the manufacturing process itself, on top of whatever arsenic was already in the raw rice grain. The report also flagged ready-to-heat rice products that are cooked inside plastic containers, citing potential leaching of chemicals from the packaging during heating. Brand 4 to never buy, Great Value brown rice, Walmart. Great Value is Walmart's house brand, and the rice sold under it is primarily sourced from the southern United States growing regions. Consumer reports testing and HBBF 2025 data both flag Great Value brown rice for high arsenic content, with southeastern batch results reaching approximately 210 parts per billion in some analyses. That number places certain Great Value brown rice batches above even the FDA's threshold that was established specifically for infant rice cereal, a threshold the FDA set because it recognized that 100 parts per billion represented a meaningful child health protection benchmark. Great Value white rice from the same domestic sourcing sits at approximately 95 to 110 parts per billion, below the infant cereal threshold, but still meaningfully higher than California-grown alternatives or imported jasmine, and basmati. Great Value does not publish its own heavy metal testing results for rice, meaning there is no transparency into which batches or growing regions supplied any given bag. Brand 3 to never buy, Ben's Original Brown Rice. Ben's Original, formerly sold as Uncle Ben's before a brand name change in 2020, consistently sources its rice from the southeastern United States Cotton Belt growing regions. Multiple independent analyses referencing Consumer Reports testing and the HBBF 2025 data place Ben's Original Brown Rice at approximately 145 parts per billion for inorganic arsenic, which is above the FDA's infant rice cereal threshold. Ben's Original Ready Rice, the pre-cooked pouch variety, was specifically identified in the HBBF report as containing DMMTA, the additional toxic arsenic compound created during the high heat processing used to produce instant rice, compounding the contamination profile of the raw grain with a processing stage contaminant. Ben's Original does not publish independent heavy metal testing results, meaning there is no consumer-facing data about actual arsenic levels before purchase. That absence of transparency is itself meaningful information given what independent testing has documented for the brand. Brand 2 to never buy, Rouse's Market Brown Rice Long Grain. Rouse's Market is a Louisiana-based supermarket chain with a regional store brand, and its long grain brown rice appeared in the HBBF 2025 report as one of the highest testing specific products in the entire study, with inorganic arsenic levels of 176 parts per billion. That figure represents 76% above the FDA's 100 parts per billion benchmark established for infant rice cereal, and reflects both the brown rice category's higher arsenic load and the Louisiana growing region's historically elevated soil arsenic levels. The HBBF 2025 report purchased samples from normal retail shelves across 20 metro areas, meaning the Rouse's Market finding reflects the product consumers routinely buy without any label disclosure of where the grain was grown or what independent testing has found in it. Brand 1 to never buy, First Street Long Grain Brown Rice. First Street is the store brand for Smart and Final grocery stores, and its long grain brown rice product received the single highest inorganic arsenic reading of any specific product named in the HBBF 2025 report, 201 parts per billion. That reading is more than double the FDA's 100 parts per billion benchmark established for infant rice cereal, and represents one of the most extreme data points in an independent testing program, covering 145 samples from 105 different brands across the country. No labeling requirement would tell a Smart and Final shopper that this rice, independently tested at 201 parts per billion of inorganic arsenic, a figure exceeding the threshold the FDA set to protect the most vulnerable consumers. The FDA's regulatory gap for general consumption rice leaves shoppers with no mandated disclosure of that number. Brand worth buying, Lundberg Family, Farms, California, white rice. Lundberg Family Farms is the most extensively documented clean rice option available because it is the only major brand that publishes its own independent heavy metal testing results directly to consumers. All Lundberg rice is grown in California, the region HBBF 2025, identified as producing consistently lower arsenic than any other U.S. area, averaging 65 parts per billion versus 151 parts per billion for southeastern U.S. rice. Lundberg's California white rice comes in at approximately 65 parts per billion, and their aromatic brown rice varieties average below the national average for white rice per nutritionfacts.org, citing Consumer Reports data. Brand worth buying, Lotus Foods, white jasmine rice. Lotus Foods sources its jasmine rice from Thailand, one of the three origins HBBF 2025 identified as consistently lower in total heavy metals alongside California rice and Indian basmati. Thai jasmine averages approximately 65 parts per billion, roughly 60% less than southeastern U.S. brown rice. Lotus Foods uses third-party verification for its sourcing and is available at Whole Foods, Target, and most natural food retailers. Brand worth buying, Rice Select Texmati white rice. Rice Select produces Texmati, a domestic basmati-style rice, and its white variety tests at approximately 63 parts per billion, making it one of the lowest testing domestic rice products available. The brand publishes information about its testing practices, giving shoppers more sourcing transparency than most rice brands provide. Rice Select is available at Costco, Target, and major grocery chains. Brand worth buying: Trader Joe's white basmati rice from India. Consumer Reports testing of basmati rice from India found inorganic arsenic levels consistently among the lowest of any variety available in the United States. The Trader Joe's white basmati sourced from India was specifically named by Consumer Reports as one of the lower arsenic options tested. Indian and Pakistani basmati naturally carry lower arsenic because the soil profiles and water management practices in those growing regions result in significantly less arsenic uptake compared to the southern U.S. cotton belt. Drop a comment and tell us which rice your household has been buying without knowing where it was grown. And subscribe, because we are running this same verified research standard across every major grocery category, so you always know what the independent testing data actually found before it goes in your cart.